Welcome to Episode 15, Foundations Recap and Quick Reference, a condensed walkthrough of the core ideas you will use again and again. Think of this as a field card you can carry into meetings and evidence sessions. We will restate the purpose of assurance, clarify the role of HITRUST, and anchor the essentials of health privacy law and security practices. We will also position major frameworks, summarize the 3 assurance programs, and revisit how PRISMA maturity turns activities into scores. Along the way, we will reinforce evidence quality, platform workflow, and the difference between practice runs and formal validation. We will tighten your sampling approach, draw firmer boundaries for shared responsibility, and ground your plans in realistic time and cost. Finally, we will lock in a governance rhythm so progress remains visible and decisions land quickly. Use this recap as your starting checklist before the next assessment step. Credible, repeatable assurance is the core purpose. Produce proof that independent reviewers can evaluate the same way every time. Credibility comes from objective artifacts that stand on their own: dated logs, configuration exports, and approvals tied to named owners. Repeatability comes from written procedures, stable sampling, and consistent naming so results are not personality dependent. Assurance is not paperwork for its own sake. It is how buyers, partners, and leaders decide to trust a system with real consequences. When assurance is strong, vendor reviews shrink, onboarding speeds up, and conversations shift from claims to evidence. When it is weak, meetings grow longer and the same questions return. Treat assurance as an operating capability, not an annual event, and your program becomes easier to run and easier to defend. HITRUST serves as an assurance overlay that consolidates requirements and verifies performance across different expectations. Frameworks describe good practice. HITRUST tests whether those practices exist and operate in your environment. The overlay collects evidence, applies structured scoring, and produces deliverables that external audiences recognize. Because it maps to multiple sources, one assessment can satisfy many requests without duplicating effort. This does not replace other approaches. It connects them with an objective method and a common language for results. Think of the overlay as the translator between your internal controls and external trust decisions. By using it consistently, you create a durable kit of proof that travels from one review to the next with minimal rework. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, sets the baseline for privacy and security around protected health information. The privacy rule governs what uses and disclosures are allowed and which require authorization. The security rule organizes safeguards into administrative, physical, and technical categories, so protection is both organizational and technical. Practical application depends on the minimum necessary principle, role-based access, and disciplined handling of data in motion and at rest. Breach rules define what counts as an incident and start the notification clock when confidentiality or integrity is compromised. Business associate agreements extend obligations into the supply chain, so vendors protect data to the same standard. Clear understanding of these essentials reduces mistakes and speeds collaboration with clinical and business teams. Positioning frameworks prevents confusion about what each one does best. The National Institute of Standards and Technology's cybersecurity framework gives outcome-oriented language for strategy and gap analysis. After first mention, call it MyCSF. The International Organization for Standardization, Standard 27001, defines a management system that keeps policy, risk, controls, and improvement in a loop. After first mention, say ISO 27001. The Center for Internet Security Controls provide a prioritized list of safeguards that convert intent into concrete tasks. After first mention, say CIS. You can design strategy with CSF, operate a governance engine with ISO, and drive day-to-day hardening with CIS. HITRUST then verifies outcomes. This map stops debates about which is right and replaces them with how they fit together. Assurance programs come in 3 levels: E1, I1, and R2. Each adding depth and breadth. The E1 level confirms essential cyber hygiene and produces credible assurance quickly for common controls. The I1 level demonstrates broader, consistent implementation across the estate with deeper testing and clearer traceability. The R2 level delivers comprehensive, risk-based assurance with detailed sampling, maturity scoring, and multiple quality gates. The choice depends on buyer expectations, data sensitivity, internal maturity, and timelines. Many teams begin with E1 to establish rhythm, move to I1 as baseline stabilize, and target R2 when measurement and management are reliable. Treat levels as a growth path, not badges to collect, and scope each engagement to match real risk. PRISMA is the maturity lens that turns activity into a staged score across policy, procedure, implementation, measured, and managed. After first mention, you may say PRISMA. Policy declares intent, procedure explains steps, and implementation proves the control operates for the defined scope. Measured adds metrics that show outcomes, while managed uses those metrics to correct drift and improve performance. Partial steps earn partial credit, which is helpful because it directs investment to the next meaningful move. The goal is not a perfect number, but a truthful story backed by artifacts that anyone can reproduce. When you link metrics to levels, maturity becomes operational, not seasonal. Evidence quality rests on the trio of policy, procedure, and proof. Policy and standards state the rules. Procedure shows how work is done. Proof demonstrates results with time, system, and owner visible. Screenshots need context and timestamps. Exports need filters, ranges, and identifiers. Tickets need names, approvals, and dates. Traceability links each file to a requirement and a system so reviewers do not guess. Consistent naming and version control make reuse safe across cycles. When in doubt, ask whether a new teammate could reach the same conclusion with only the artifact in front of them. If yes, quality is likely sufficient. If not, add context until it stands on its own. MyCSF provides the structured workspace from scope to submission. You define organizational boundaries, select assessment type and factors, tailor requirement statements, and mark inherited controls from providers. You map evidence directly to references, record tests and samples, and manage issues and corrective actions with owners and dates. Milestones and quality gates enforce sequence so steps are not skipped under pressure. Collaboration lives inside tasks, comments, and notifications rather than scattered across mail threads. Final packaging and submission produce the certification letter and report when reviews pass. Treat the platform as your system of record, and your audit trail will be both visible and defensible. Readiness and validated assessments serve different purposes and should not be confused. Readiness is rehearsal. Explore scope, practice evidence capture, and discover gaps without the pressure of a formal verdict. Validated is performance. Lock scope, execute tests, and produce deliverables that customers and regulators will trust. Evidence in readiness can be provisional and illustrative. Evidence in validation must be current, scoped, and traceable to production. Timelines, costs, and assessor involvement increase with validation because rigor and quality gates increase. Choose readiness when you need to learn and organize. Choose validation when buyers require formal proof. Transition only when owners, artifacts, and cadence are truly in place. Sampling fundamentals keep conclusions fair and reproducible. Define the population, show the frame you will draw from, and select sample sizes that balance confidence and effort. Use random, systematic, or stratified methods and document the seed or rule so another person can rerun the draw. Align time windows to the control cadence so proof is current and relevant. Handle small populations with 100% testing rather than pretending to sample. Carry identifiers and timestamps across systems so each item can be verified where proof lives. When the method is explicit, debates shrink and attention moves to outcomes. Shared responsibility and inheritance creates speed without creating blind spots. The shared model states what the provider operates and what the customer must configure, monitor, and prove. Inheritance accepts a provider's tested control when scope and rigor truly apply to your assets. Provider attestations must be current, precise about services and regions, and linked to your tenant or accounts. Customer artifacts still show the parts you own, such as keys, roles, and monitoring. Document limits and residual risk so leadership knows what remains. Clear boundaries and mapped evidence turn shared services into reliable assurance rather than guesswork. Budgeting, timelines, and resource planning make results predictable. Cost drivers include scope size, evidence maturity, coordination complexity, and the assurance level selected. Build a milestone calendar with gates for scope approval, sampling readiness, internal quality review, and submission. Add buffers for holidays and dependencies, and parallelize independent work streams to compress duration without cutting corners. Plan staffing for a project manager, control owners, documentation support, and technical leads with cross-coverage for vacations. Treat tool subscriptions, training, and assessor fees as investments that reduce rework later. Transparency on cost and time converts pressure into pacing. Governance rhythm aligns roles and keeps momentum. Define who is responsible, who is accountable, who is consulted, and who is informed using a RACI that lives where everyone can see it. Establish an executive sponsor and a program owner with clear decision rights and escalation paths. Run working groups on a bi-weekly cadence, hold steering reviews monthly, and publish short, consistent notes after each meeting. Review metrics that matter: risk movement, issue closure, control health, and connect them to actions. Repository hygiene, ticket boards, and shared calendars make the rhythm visible and durable between cycles. These foundations are now ready for application. You have a purpose, an overlay that verifies results, clear legal essentials, a position for major frameworks, and a growth path through assurance levels. You know how maturity is scored, what evidence passes review, and how the platform orchestrates scope to submission. You can choose the right assessment mode, sample fairly, and draw firm provider boundaries. You can budget realistically, schedule credibly, and govern with a cadence that sustains progress. Carry this quick reference into planning sessions and evidence work, and use it to set the tone for disciplined, confident assurance.